And so when you think about this idea of like a decentralized version being better, talk through a little bit. So there's the lack of control. There's this idea of like pulling on the community. What else is there that you see as the value of having it decentralized?
Yeah, so generally speaking, when I say decentralizing social media, I really mean actually putting your content on a blockchain. Like we work on the DeSo blockchains designed to store social data and build social apps on. And so what that means is essentially you make an account. That account's actually a public-private key. And everything that you do goes on chain, just like if you were sending and receiving Bitcoin on the Bitcoin blockchain or doing DeFi on Ethereum, right? So, but again, it's for social, right? We're moving that disruption from just financial applications to social. And so what happens is when you follow someone, that goes on chain. When you make a post, that goes on chain. And the benefit of that is basically that any app that wants to build on top of that chain can actually get access to that open fire hose of content and start building more efficient apps, more efficient feeds. So that's what I'm talking about when I'm talking about decentralizing social media. It's putting the follow graph, the content, the engagement, the likes, and then all that other stuff actually on a blockchain.
Got it. And so when you start to think about, let's take Twitter as kind of the current event situation, if you will. If you were Elon and you actually got control of Twitter, which is still unclear whether he will be able to successfully do that or not, what do you think he should do? Like, what would you do with Twitter if it had all these users, but it's definitely centralized, hierarchical, and kind of as far away from what we're talking about as it could be?
It's a great question. And I think the first thing you have to ask yourself is, do you care about the Twitter share price? Because if you care about the Twitter share price, then I actually think the ads-driven business model that it has today is probably the most efficient for extracting value from its network. So what that means basically is Twitter runs what I call an ads-driven business model. And that means that when you make a post on Twitter, they own that post. And they don't let anyone else build an app on top of it. The only way that other people will see the posts that you make on Twitter are if you use Twitter's app. And the reason why they do that is because if they were to allow someone else, a third party, to run an app on their content, they wouldn't be able to monetize that app. They can't show ads as effectively on apps they don't control. And so the ads-driven business model results in extreme centralization. It results in Twitter needing to basically consolidate all of the content and only allow its app on top of it so that it can be a broker between advertisers and its users through that app, right? So if you care about Twitter's share price, if you care about profits, then breaking that model is extremely risky because it's kind of hard to make more money directly, or rather you might be able to, but it's risky. So if you don't care about share price, the thing that creates more value, not about extracting value, creating value for society, is actually if you open up that content and allow anybody to build on it. So in particular, Twitter doesn't have to say we're going to be the only ones who make an app. We could actually let anybody build an app on top of Twitter's database. And actually what's funny is most social networks actually started open in that way. So Facebook and Twitter started open to build their networks when they were in their growth phase. But the problem is that open model, at least in the centralized world pre-blockchain, wasn't very monetizable. So while it's good for actually building a large network and creating maximum value for users, you can't actually extract as much value when you're letting any app in the world, any developer in the world build content on your database. The thing that finally changes that for the first time, and it's a new business model, and it's a post I wrote on nattertheory.com that just went out today. The thing that changes that is the fact that blockchains can integrate money with social. When you can integrate money with social, you can have a different business model than ads that allows you to have an open platform like a blockchain, but you're making money in a different way that actually can make you more money than you made before. And I know that's a little bit high level, but I've been talking for a minute here, so I just want to give it back to you.
So I think that
I can go into it.
No, I think this difference between do you care about the share price or do you not is really important, right? And Elon publicly did say that this isn't about economics for him; it's about free speech. And so that would suggest he doesn't care about the share price. Let's hold that as the kind of main assumption here. But when you think about that, I also wonder how important revenue then is. If you don't care about share price, maybe that means that in the short term you can just tank it, right? You just don't care, it's private, whatever. But is it important to have revenue? So like, one of the things that I said is if all you literally cared about was the free speech, then like buy Twitter, bring it private, fire, 90% of the staff basically outside of like the core engineering team, and open source as much of it as possible. And like, good luck, everyone. Let's go as a community. And my guess is that like some pretty cool, interesting things would come out of that. The question becomes, do you need revenue at all to actually make that sustainable? Or could it operate as a truly open source project where, in the Bitcoin community, for example, there's grants and things like that that help fund some of the development, but there is no revenue model that goes to the kind of core team. How do you think about the importance of revenue in a world where you like open source a product like Twitter?
Yeah, I mean, so I actually think that you need a business model that makes money for certain actors in the ecosystem in order for the model to be sustainable. So if nobody is making money, I think the thing is going to fall into disrepair, right? I think you have to have some people making money. And it's good to start with your example of Bitcoin, right? With Bitcoin, on the protocol, no one actively gets money for developing the Bitcoin protocol. But there's an application layer on top of Bitcoin that's exchanges, that allow you to trade and all kinds of other things, lending platforms that do make money, right? They make money on fees. They make money on you doing stuff with your Bitcoin on that application layer. And that's actually gives them an incentive to make sure that Bitcoin works, that Bitcoin functions. Obviously, the people who own Bitcoin have an incentive, and some of the biggest development teams are funded by people who own a lot of Bitcoin. So you definitely need some kind of thing that makes money and brings it back into developing and investing in the network. The question is, how do you do that with a social network versus something like Bitcoin? And I think that that actually brings us back to what would I do if I were to own Twitter, right? Opening up Twitter's content and allowing anyone to build on it lacks that incentive to actually keep developing the network, right? Because how are you making money, right? You could charge developers for using your API in their apps, but that's probably I actually doubt that's necessarily going to make you enough money to even keep the lights on necessarily, right? So you really need something that's more efficient, and that's actually where blockchain comes in, right? So the thing that blockchains are really good at, and the reason why actually fully disrupting the architecture of Twitter from a centralized server to a blockchain can really pay dividends, which is that blockchains are really good at mixing money and other things, in this case, social, right? So when you build social media on a blockchain, you get access to completely new product features that you can transition to a fee-based model, a fee per transaction-based model, rather than just charging developers or ads like it is today. And the way that works is you basically have microtransactions or macro transactions that you couldn't do with the traditional payment rails. So NFTs are the biggest example, but they're actually not necessarily the biggest, right? You actually want something that's more integrated with social. So there's creator coins that are tied to people's reputation, speculating on a post, speculating on how popular it's going to be. These kinds of product features, you could actually maybe charge enough fees that you have enough of an incentive to maintain the network.
Hey you, did you like this video? Great, we make 5 of them a day and post them here on this channel. Make sure you're subscribed, like the video, and see you next time.